Okay. Once again, welcome everybody. Good afternoon or good morning to any folks joining us from the West Coast. Once again, my name is Greg Keller. I handle the eastern third of the country here with Revizto. So thanks everybody for taking some time out of your day here and hopping on the Revizto webinar, another one of our webinar series here. This, much like the last one, will be a high-level overview of Revizto. So for those that are current customers on here or ones that have already attended, a lot of this is probably going to be review for you guys, but you may pick up a couple new things along the way. So again, thankful for everybody coming on board. For those new folks here, maybe those that have never seen or heard of Revizto before, and this is your first experience, Revizto is kind of, they call it the Swiss Army knife of the AEC industry, as I kind of like to call it. It can go a few different ways at a firm. We have customers that are using it for VR purposes. We have customers that are using it to get lightweight and fully navigable models out into the field. And we have customers that are using it as a full-on coordination tool and really goes throughout all phases, throughout the life cycle of a project. So we, really have customers in all phases and all aspects of the AEC industry. So today what I'm going to do is give like I said, a high-level overview and talk about some of the workflows that are associated with Revizto and its coordination capabilities. And then we'll obviously open it up for questions afterwards. So without further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. So first thing here that we're going to hop into is just to kick it off and take it right from the top is how do we get models in geometry out into Revizto? So much like Navisworks, Revizto, you don't design in Revizto. We rely on geometry coming in from AutoCAD, Revit, Civil 3D, SketchUp, Rhino, various different software platforms. The most common, obviously, being Revit here, and most of our customers will start off with using Revizto as a coordination platform, as a better way to communicate design issues, really starting in schematic design and working their way through DDs and CDs. So to get the geometry out into Revizto, typically what happens is you'd start with your Revit model, and as you can see in my Revizto 4 tab that's built into the Revit model, I have an export to Revizto button. So the first thing that I'm going to do is click the export to Revizto button. And what's going to happen is a dialog box is going to appear that gives me options of what I am exporting out into Revizto. So as you can see here, you're able to select what specific view you want to export out into Revizto, as well as being able to bring in other saved views, levels, grid lines, rooms, and phases, which is actually something new that we instituted with 4.4, the ability to view phases and toggle back and forth, and sheets as well. So being able to export sheets natively from Revit into Revizto for the combination of 2D and 3D issue tracking. The Use Render Appearance button, this is actually going to give it a little bit more of a, it's going to make it look a little bit better by using the Render Appearance button, through our game engine platform. If you want to have, certain color filters from your Revit model transfer over into Revizto as they sit in Revit, then you'd actually want to uncheck this Use Render Appearance box. But for what it's worth, you also will have the ability to do color coding with various aspects of the Revizto model once you're actually in Revizto, okay? As far as the sheets go, you do have the ability to select which sheets you want to bring in as opposed to, the entire sheet set. And you have the option to bring those in as in a vectorized format or as just an image format. Image format will go quite a bit quicker as far as an export goes, but the vector format will allow you to be able to zoom in as far as you need to on the sheet without losing quality or clarity to that sheet. So depending on what your goal is with being able to view 3D issues on 2D or create issues in 2D to view in 3D, you can kind of decide how you want to bring in those sheets. So when we have our options ready to go, we select the export button and it starts that export process, comes here into the Revizto model, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do once we have the geometry into Revizto is we're going to publish this model to the cloud. And that is what's going to allow us to share this project out with the rest of the team. So by clicking on the sync button up here, it allows you to title the project, push it out to the cloud, and therefore allow you to share that project out. So after we click sync and get that project onto the cloud, we can now click the share button. It is worth noting, again, for those that are not familiar with Revizto, that everything that you're doing here in Revizto is working locally to your local machine. The publishing it to the cloud is what's allowing that real-time issue tracking and collaboration to happen. But as far as navigation goes, creating issues, taking measurements, creating sections, and that sort of thing, all that happens locally to your workstation. So now that I've published the project to the cloud, I click the share button, and now it allows me to invite various members to my team. So a couple things with this is each person that you invite, Revizto is based off of a named user account. So when you type in an email, it's going to allow that person, whoever that email was sent to create a Revizto account and download the software. And whether they download it on 1 machine or 10 machines, they still count as 1 license to your project. And each person that you invite, you have the ability to set their access level, which I actually don't have the ability to change in this particular project because I'm not the project owner. However, being the project owner, when you come in and you invite somebody, you have the ability to either give them one of these defined or predefined, I should say, levels of access, or you can just custom create different levels and create different titles based off of what you want that person to be able to do. In this particular case, you can see we have a few presets here, but like I said, you guys can really create as many as you want for whoever you need to invite. From a licensing standpoint, it's also very flexible to be able to add or delete users within the project, really at will. So as you can see here, we have 4 different users. If I need to delete any of them at any time, I can come over here and click delete. If I click the information tab here or the information button, it tells me what that person is able to do by the ones that are highlighted in white, and the ones that are grayed out obviously are we're going to go ahead and hop back into this just to kind of review where we were going here. I am hopping right into our markup and issue tracking functionality of Revizto. We'll come and we'll touch on some of the other the icons here, that the ancillary functionality that Revizto provides. But I do want to get right into the coordination and issue tracking and show you the real value that Revizto brings, and as it's really a better way to communicate design issues back to the project team, because it becomes that central focal point for communication, and regardless of what software package somebody is technical in or comfortable in, we can all see the exact same information. So Revizto is a multi-platform issue tracker that allows for you to mark up in Revizto and see that back in Revit, AutoCAD, Navisworks. It also allows you to create the issue out of any one of those platforms, see it back in Revizto. So again, it becomes that central hub for all issue-related communication. So jumping right in here, as I was about to get into before I think the webinar kicked us out, which hopefully that doesn't happen again, but what I'm going to do is create an issue here. So we can see this duct going straight through the walkway. So this is obviously something that is a problem and something that we're going to address to the team. So what I'm going to do is create a little section box here, just to kind of filter out the noise, so to speak, and focus in on, kind of more of a centralized area of Revizto. The other thing that this is going to allow me to do is by creating a section box in Revizto, it's, I'm going to be able to view this, or whoever I assign this to, I'm going to be able to view this back in Revit in an isometric working view. So as you can see, I've created this little scope box here in Revizto, and now what I want to do is mark this up. So to initiate an issue in Revizto, we would simply click this plus button. And what this allows us to do is locate or drop a pin of exactly where we want this issue to be located in Revizto, as well as on 2D plans. So I'm going to just drag and drop this issue pin right smack dab where that duct is. And now from our markup tools over here on the left-hand side, I can start to mark this up and add my notes. So I'm just going to throw an outline around this and do a call out, and maybe we'll just say, drop duct below walkway. So our little call out here in Revizto, you can do things like edit the color, the thickness, what kind of outline it is, edit the text size, arrows, that sort of thing, all that, as you can see over here on the right-hand side. But just to stick to the basics here, we've added our call out, and now just to give this a sample title, webinar issue 1. Okay, so when I click done, it's kind of like hitting the send button. So it uploads in real time these issues into our issue tracker. So because Revizto is a cloud-based collaboration platform, as soon as that uploads into the issue tracker, anybody that I've invited to in this project can instantly see that issue. Okay, so all these issues become, as I said, the central point of communication here across your project team. So the first thing that somebody like myself might do is come over and assign this to a specific member of our team. Okay, so if I come down and I click assignee, when I click the edit button, it allows me to directly assign this issue to somebody on the team that I've invited to the project. So if James Ocean is our ductwork guy, he's got to go in and make that change into his Revit model. I select James as the assignee, and James gets an email notification that I've assigned that task to him. So then what James will be able to do is go into his local Revit file, open up the issue tracker in Revizto, and view this issue, and I'll show you that here momentarily. Other things we can do, I might add a deadline here if it's something that we need to kind of hold their feet to the fire, add some urgency here. We want to issue a deadline of September 13th. And now because I'm the one creating the issue, I will most likely keep this as an open status. When James opens this up and starts working on this issue, he'll more than likely come in and edit the status to reflect an in progress state. And then when he solves that issue, he can change it to solved. And then somebody like myself as the leading coordination person can come in afterwards and verify that all these issues have in fact been solved and close them out. So watchers is kind of like being CC'd on an email. So folks that are not necessarily the ones that you're assigning it to, but people that you need to be in the loop and need to get notified of things that are going on with respect to this issue. So I might come down and add Nathan Luckenbill as a watcher on this particular issue. Okay, and then tagging functionality is heavily utilized in Revizto in a multitude of different ways. So when I click on the edit button for the tag, you guys can see a bunch of different examples of of how tags are used and what labels are tagged. So we have customers that will create tags based off of an upcoming coordination meeting. So they want to tie a bunch of issues to an upcoming coordination meeting, so it's easy to sift through these and pull up the issues during that meeting. Or they might create a tag based off of a particular consultant that they're working with. Or maybe this is a CA issue. So again, a whole host of different ways to use the tagging functionality. And above all, it's a better way, it's a great way to be able to classify and organize these issues. So for example, I might just click August 10th coordination meeting. I realize that we're past August 10th, but just to use that as an example. All right, so now anybody that you invite to the project, regardless of how they're accessing the Revizto issue tracker, they can come into this filter button and filter out what's important to them and what's not. So clicking on filter, if I am James Ocean and I come in here and I see 206 issues or 71 issues, whatever the case is, I don't want to be able to have to deal with all those. So I can come in, filter by assignee, click my name, and now I'm working with 14 issues, which is obviously much more palatable than trying to focus on 71. Or I can come in and I can filter by tag and say, all right, well, where is the issues that we need to discuss in our August 10th coordination meeting? So now we can see the 5 that are here. So again, the filter option or filter functionality is a great way to keep those issues organized in a way that anybody can see those and what's important to them. So as I mentioned, Revizto becomes the issue tracker becomes that central point of communication across the project team. So you'll notice in our chat feed here is that it allows for anybody to come in and make notes or add comments here into this particular issue. So I might say, hey, James, please address this ASAP. James can come in, thanks, Greg, we'll handle ASAP. Hopefully that's the case. So anybody who's invited can come in and add notes here. In addition to adding notes, you can upload any kind of documentation you want into the feed here. As you can see, this attachment button that will pull up my project or my folder structure and allow me to attach any kind of documents that I want into the feed, whether it be Excel files, PDFs, Word docs. You can also copy and paste links into this as well. And then additionally, we have the camera functionality, which would allow you to take actual live photographs and upload those directly into the feed. So if you're accessing Revizto from an iPad or a Microsoft Surface and you're out in the field and you want to communicate the status of this particular issue, you can launch this camera right from within the issue tracker, take the picture, and it uploads into the feed. So you can kind of use those pictures as a way to kind of verify the status as well. So that is creating an issue here in Revizto in 3D. You'll notice this edit markup button, which would allow us to do exactly that. So if I come in here and I don't know, we'll add another, we want to address this pipe here as well. So maybe kind of 2 issues in the same snapshot for whatever reason. So we've changed the markup, and in that same chat feed, it's going to keep a running history of the markups. So if I click here, this is our initial version, but you'll see in descending order and what's closest to the chat feed or to the communication box here, it will have that most up-to-date version of the markup. So this is obviously our markup view. Clicking on 3D brings it back to the same section box in 3D that we created. But then also clicking on 2D brings up a list of various sheets that we have brought in from the Revit model. So as you guys hopefully saw in the beginning, when you bring in sheets natively from Revit, because it's connected directly to that coordinate and elevation, it allows us to have this 2D, 3D bidirectional connectivity here with our issues. So as you can plainly see, as I zoom in on this vectorized sheet, in fact, that duct is going directly through the walkway. And as you can see, I've used this example quite a few times with demos, but that pin that's blinking in blue, that tells us, that's the particular issue at hand. You will also notice that in addition to that issue, there's other pins that relate to this particular sheet based off of coordinate and elevation. And depending on the status, that's what you're going to see in that particular color code. So red are open, orange are in progress, and green are solved. So not only does it show you that particular issue that you just created, it's also going to show you other issues that might pertain to this same sheet. Now, what it also allows us to do is create the issue from the sheet and be able to instantly see where that's located in 3D. So coming up here to the top, you'll notice, in our 2D, 3D issue tracker here, clicking on 2D brings you directly to that sheet. So, I can click on this, it almost looks like a Rubik's Cube here. That'll pull up a list of all the sheets here that we've brought in natively from Revit. But, using that particular sheet, if I zoom into that spot and I want to mark up on the sheet, I can do that. So just like we did in 3D, I can click on the Create Issue button, drag and drop that pin where we want it, quickly mark that up, do our call out, drop duct below walkway, and we'll call this webinar 2D issue. So we select done. So now we've created that from the 2D sheet, and we can come over here to the left side, click 3D, and it brings us to the same exact coordinate. Now, because you're marking up on a sheet, it may require you to look up or down a little bit based off of where that might be. But as you can see, just kind of looking up or flying up into that same exact area, it tells us where it brings us to that exact same spot. So again, we have the not only can you mark up in Revizto in 3D and view that on 2D, but you can also mark it up on our 2D sheets from Revit and view that in 3D. And again, that's all based off of the fact that it's linked by coordinate. All right, so now how does this, to show the relationship back to Revit and Navisworks as an example. So, we assign that issue to James Ocean, if you guys recall. So James gets the notification, he opens up his local Revit file. Now, the only thing he would have had to have done previously is open up his local file in Revit, go into the Revizto 4 tab, click the Link Settings button, and link his local file to the Revizto Cloud project. So what he would see for the first time is this dialog box. He clicks Link to Existing, clicks OK, finds that project, and in this case, Terminal 001 4.4 US, and now that's linked. So now when he clicks Issue Tracker, it's going to grab those changes from the cloud, and through his secondary monitor, he's going to be able to see the Revizto Issue Tracker. So as I drag this down, you can see, and most, if not all of us, have 2 or even sometimes 3 screens. So having Revizto open on one, Revit on the other. So now the great thing about this is that, we can click on this particular issue, or I should say double click on that, and it's going to generate that back in Revit in an isometric view. And depending on the size of the Revit model, it may take, a few seconds to load, but as you can see, it does in fact give me that same exact scope box in Revit that I created in Revizto. Okay. So to show it the other way, we can also create the issue out of Revit and log that into Revizto, the same way we did the other way. So you'll notice the New Issue button also resides in the Revizto 4 tab in Revit. So if I wanted to initiate this issue from a Revit model to get it out to the team to view in Revizto or Revit or AutoCAD or Navisworks, I can do that. So I click our plus button for New Issue there. You'll notice that the markup becomes the Revit model, and maybe now I'll just use my pen tool. So, whether you're accessing it from a tablet and you're going to do freehand, or you had a stylus, or whatever the case may be, you have the pen tool. We'll do this same exact call out, drop duct below hallway, and we can change the color. We can relocate it, and we'll call this Revit webinar issue. We click done, and so now that is initiated from Revit and instantly able to be seen in Revizto and the other platforms. So when I click 3D, you'll notice that it gives us that same exact section box back in Revizto as it did when we created the issue out of Revizto. All right. showing it back with Navisworks. I don't have AutoCAD on my desktop, so I can't show it with AutoCAD, but everything works the exact same way based off of the coordinates. But to show it in Navisworks here, same thing, same kind of workflow applies. I would have previously linked it. So when I come in and I click on Issue Tracker, it's going to grab those changes from the cloud and launch the Issue Tracker from within Navisworks. And now, using that initial example, I can double click, and it's going to bring me to that spot in my Navisworks model. Unless it makes up, there we go. So that exact same spot, we can go to the issue that was created out of Revit. Gives you the exact same spot, might slightly change that view based off of, how you, or, what tool you created that in. But as you can see, it brings you to that same spot. And it's worth noting too that, in Revit, when we open this up in Revit, this is not bogging down your Revit model with saved views. This, if you look at the project browser over here, this is a Revizto isometric. It's a temporary view. So each view that we click on inside of Revit, it's going to just overwrite that. Now, if we did want to save this as a permanent view, we can just rename this, and it will save in your browser as a saved view, as a permanent view. But typically, our customers, do avoid that because they can always quickly access that view just by clicking on that issue in the issue tracker. Okay. And now once these issues, all these issues that we've created here in Revizto, they are now easily created and exported or created into reports. Our two most common report functionalities or report files are, Excel file, which we can quickly export these issues out, save them as an Excel file to your desktop, and all the information that is housed here in the issue tracker is going to translate over. Even the actual markup snapshot itself, it'll provide a live link that you can click on and bring up that snapshot. And then the other one obviously is the PDF document, which will give you again all that same information and all of the snapshots along with that. So from this issue tracker, very easy and quick to be able to generate reports to issue to the team. All right, so that is a breakdown of our issue tracking platform. So now what I want to do is just kind of touch on some of the other features here in Revizto that are more along the lines of just being able to select different ways to view the model, to navigate the model, to section the model, being able to color code and isolate link files and that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is, to get out of this section, a couple things that I can do is come down to the bottom toolbar and uncheck this scissors icon. So now it turns everything whole again. But another thing that I can do is just click on our home viewpoint, which will reset everything and bring us back to that initial starting point. So, typically whoever exports this project out will come in and they'll save a viewpoint here as their starting position, which everybody will start at once they open the project. So to kind of skim over this, and not skim over it, but to hit on and highlight these other areas, navigating in Revizto is one thing, and it certainly provides a very fast way to navigate here, the entire model. But being able to jump from point to point very quickly is also a big piece of Revizto. And I don't really want to try flying through this model with you guys on the webinar anyway, because undoubtedly it's probably going to look a little choppy to you guys given the network latency here. I have about, I think, 10 or 15 megs upload speed. So while it's not terrible, it probably will still result in a little bit of lag for you guys. But again, to be able to jump quickly to different points in the model, first thing here is our intelligent 2D map functionality. So what this does, by clicking on that, it will give you an overhead snapshot of where you're at with the model and allow you to jump from any point to the next with just a double click. you'll notice the levels that we've brought in right from Revit are broken out here on the right-hand side. So if I click on the walkway level, you're going to notice that that section immediately goes to the walkway level. So, our blue icon over here, that's where I currently am. If I have to get over into the, to the heart of the building here, and I can zoom in, and if I got to get to these electrical distribution boxes here, I just happen to know, that they are. I just double click right in that spot, and it's going to bring me directly there. So when I click or double click again, it brings me to that spot in the model. So what we can do is always just go back and reference this and jump from spot to spot with this 2D map functionality. So now going down to ground level, if I have to come over into this room here for whatever reason, again, double click, and it brings us into that room. And one more time, we'll just go out into to the courtyard here, and there we are. So that is our 2D intelligent map functionality. Again, one of the ways where you can quickly jump from point to point in Revizto. The second way is actually through our rooms functionality, which we did not bring the room names in on this particular project from the Revit model. That's why you see it that it's grayed out. But when that is done, when the room names are brought in from the Revit model, it's going to bring up a list of every room in that project. And, you can literally just click on that and it will take you to that room. So that's a second way of being able to jump from point to point. A third way is through our viewpoints tab or viewpoints functionality, which clicking on this here will bring up the viewpoints. And it's really a combination of viewpoints that we've brought in from maybe a Revit or a Navisworks model, or views that we're creating directly here in Revisto. So original would be the ones brought in from Revit, as you can see here. So if I click on these, it'll bring me to these various different views. Revisto isometric, back to 3D, and that will bring us way out. And now I'll come back into Revisto, and you'll notice this home icon, or this house icon here, that denotes that it's our starting point. So when I click on that, it's going to bring me back to that same starting point. So again, viewpoints are ways to just instantly jump from area to area in the model. And anything that is created, any isolation, any transparency that is created or that's done invisible when that viewpoint is created, it's going to preserve all of that. So obviously giving you guys different ways to view the model. And we'll come back to that in a couple minutes here. One last way to be able to jump from point to point in the model in Revisto is actually through our Revit sheets that we brought in natively. So clicking on the 2D tab here, I can pull up a list of the various plans or sheets that we've brought in from Revit, and I guess just to stick right with the mechanical services ductwork here, you'll notice this icon here that says jump to 3D. So if I just want to get to I can go right through our walkway here, that same example. When I click jump to 3D and then just click in that area, it brings us to that point in the model. So again, it might not bring you to the exact elevation off of the sheet, but it will bring you to that coordinate. So I can fly up here, and there we are at that same duct that's intersecting the walkway. So going back to that 2D sheet, and we can just click jump to 3D, and now we clicked inside of the courtyard, and there we are. So probably all told, really 4 different ways that we can jump to different spots in the Revisto model. Next one that I just want to touch on, or just to kind of finish up here, we have the measuring functionality in Revisto. 3 different ways that we can access a ruler, which is our icon right here, our ruler icon that allows us to measure. First one is our laser ruler, or surface to surface. And you can see as I drag this along, it'll register floor to ceiling, wall to wall, you name it. It'll just look for those surfaces. Second is our Vertice Vertex ruler. So I can snap these to different vertices, and you'll kind of feel it lock into place, and it'll give us the, in this case, the height of the door frame here. And then the shortest distance feature is another one. So just double clicking on any two objects or surfaces. So, double clicking on, let's say that beam and the wall here. When I double click on both of those, it'll calculate that minimal distance for me. And you'll see our XYZ values down there as well. So that's our ruler functionality. You guys saw me do it when I created the issue, but the sectioning tool in Revizto as well, both section plane and section box. So clicking on scissors, you see that we can pull this up and down in a plane, whether it's vertical or horizontal. Okay, you can drag it and attach it to different surfaces, which will automatically allow you to do that section plane, by the surface that you kind of attach to. And then just like I showed with the section or with the issue, you can click over to section box, and there's a few different ways that you can manipulate the section box. The first one is just kind of dragging each side and being able to expand or contract that.